right, so we're going to start this class, and right under the picture of me, you're going to see that there's OpenOffice, and that is the software we're going to use.
Are you
And
recording?
yep, thank you. Hey, Robin's here too. Okay. So, when we open up the program, you're going to click on Drawing, and it's going to bring up this screen. Okay. And with this screen, I'm just going to start by showing you how to just make a circle. You're going to go over to the right hand side where it says Insert Shapes and click on a circle, and you get a little crosshair that comes up. To make a perfect circle, you want to hit Shift. Then left click your mouse and draw your circle. Okay. And let me see. Description, text, position, and size. So this is a little different than mine, so I'm kind of learning with you. When you right click over the top of the circle, you then can click on position and size, and it'll tell you how big you've made your circle so far. So say you wanted to make a 3 3/4 to fit into a 4-inch round circle, then you're going to put 3.75. And if you had click keep ratio prior to that, it'll keep that size, so you know it'll be perfect. But of course, I didn't do that beforehand. So the next time we come in, you can go in and just click keep ratio, and it'll keep it in that perfect circle. Okay, so this is a 3.75, and if you look down here at the bottom, you can see it says 3.75 by 3.75. Okay, so that's how you pull up a circle. And then if you want to print it, I personally print my circles kind of, it depends on what I'm using them for. If I'm just going to make up a whole bunch for different sizes for templates, then you can just keep adding circles. Well, number one, why did that move out of there? So this little circle in the center is a axis turning point.
Okay.
So I just wasn't sure why it actually moved. We aren't ever going to use that. So I don't mean to confuse you guys, but it confused me. I must have grabbed it when I was going through there at some point. So if you want to copy this, you can just go up here to right under the windows and hit copy. Or you can, anytime you want to do something to that particular image, you right click on it, and it'll give you a whole bunch of different things you can do with it, and at the bottom is copy. When you want to paste, you can right click again anywhere in the page and hit paste.
Okay. And it always fall on top of the previous circle, right?
Apparently, usually when I do it in a different area and hit paste, in my other program, it does paste it to a different place. But for this, you're going to have to grab it from on top of the previous circle.
Okay.
So then you right click on it, position and size, and you can come in and do 4. And because we put keep ratio, it automatically kept it as a circle. So This is how simple it is. But if you're going to print these out for doing templates,
Mm-hmm,
please put them on cardstock,
okay,
because, or some kind, because otherwise your pencil's going to crinkle them as you're going around. And I cut them out with scissors. I don't cut them out with blades, but that's just how I do that.
so I forgot to ask you, when you open this program, do you just like go to do a Google search for it to
I
download it?
actually sent you a link
Oh, okay,
in an email with for where the open source open office is, but you can Google open
okay,
office and it'll take you to the. Okay, you can't hear me? Renee, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Um, okay, Robin can't hear me. Um, uh, okay. So let's give Robin a second to. Can you hear me yet, Robin? Because it shows me being nice and loud, so I don't know. Either that or it's my fan. uh, okay, I'm gonna switch my screens for a second. Um, Gotta remember which program to go to do that. Hold on. There. I want to bring. Okay. So right now we are going to. Oh, she's coming back in. We are going to learn how to measure to get an oval to make. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when I originally did this, it was very straight on, okay? And it really didn't want to do this nicely, but we're still going to use this as our example. So I take my quilting ruler and I set it over the top, and I left a little bit of a gap at this end, and I looked at it and I said, okay, if this comes out, I'm gonna do anywhere from 2 to 2 1/4 by 1 to 1 1/4 wide of a circle or oval.
Inside, are you measuring the inside?
Correct. Because you want to measure this area from there to there on the inside, because we want it to sit right down inside of that. This is applicable to your soft stand-ups that are, stuffed things. This is how I figure out how to do all of those. So now we're going to come back over. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and change these. And I remember what I did on these. I'm taking the ratio off of it so I can change this. And I can see by measuring the one that I knew I ultimately used, it ended up being 1¼ or yeah, 1¼ by 2¼ but when I did it, so let's see, 1.25 by 2.25, hit OK, right, so we have 1, but then I wanted to do another one just in case, and I did it at 1 inch wide. I did it 1 by 2 because I wasn't sure how big it was gonna, how much it was gonna take. And when you're measuring these things, you have to take into account how thick your fabric is as well. Because if you don't, then you end up doing it and now you've encapsulated your foam core with your material and you go to put it in and now it doesn't fit because the other piece fit perfectly, but this did not. So you have to take into account, that's why I kind of do a variety. So you may want to do like 3 of them, just so you don't have to come back and reprint. So when I printed those out, and I want to, of course I couldn't find, I took a picture with the one that I had, and now I can't find it again. Brilliant of me. So I'm kind of quickly going to bring my cutting mat back up here so I can kind of show you what I do. So I had my little template and I traced around it. Now, when you cut these out, not quite sure why it wants to do that, but you don't want to do it straight up and down. You want to make sure, that's what happens when you try to do a tight curve and the poster board crinkles on it. Okay? Kind of chunked that. Okay, now this is probably going to be a little bit big, but you want to take and not do like a full-on bevel like I do with all of the ornaments, but you want to take the edge of it off so that if it's, see how it kind of went straight up and down there, because when you get material on this, oh, you can tell this is not my good foam core because it is not loving this blade. Wow, and it's a new blade. I have pieces that I use as shims, so heaven only knows what this is. And just kind of knock that edge down because that's going to allow for your material to come in. And not be, see, now we can tell that that is close, but because this is a outline of my of the piece that has the fabric covering it, it's a little too big. So I would just come in and cut this edge down even with a pair of scissors because we beveled it, and just take it down a little bit all the way around before putting your fabric on, because otherwise you won't have enough and the fabric will sit up on top of these stitches instead of sinking down in like this one.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how you create your ovals for any of these pieces that you need a specific size oval on. Now,
but anytime you're doing that though, you do a template or for every piece. You don't assume that all bags are going to be
correct. That is absolutely correct, because it's going to change with the fabric you use on the back. It's going to change with if somebody has stitched larger than what this is, or if it's a different designer.
Okay.
So you always measure every single piece that you do. And one of the key things when you're doing the soft-sided stand-ups, and this is in the video that I have on my regular YouTube list,
okay.
is in the soft-sided stand-up of the tree, is I will pin on, say I'm gonna stuff this. I pin it on in probably about 5 places, because then when I'm stuffing it, you have to be really careful that this goes down in the material and not have to really pull the material up and push it down in, because it'll create a little crinkle groove on the back, because you've okay, I'm back. So if you have to pull, if this oval doesn't fit well enough and you have to pull the material up, then what happens is you create this groove on the back, this ridge, and the material won't stretch out as far and your stuffing won't look right. So if it doesn't fit nicely and easily down in that circle, then you have to cut down your core and always test it before you put the material around your foam core, because it could be too big, like I'm saying, or it could be too small. And then if you try to, because you put the material on it, if you try to sew it around the back piece of material, sew it around, it'll make pucker marks because it's too small of a piece in there. So it's always better to be a little bit bigger and have to cut it down, obviously. But if for some reason, like with this little piece here, this goes inside this bag, and I could not, it was like, so this was the 1x2 that I had printed out basically, and the 1x2 seemed like it was perfect, but for whatever reason it wasn't covering the ends quite right. So it was like pushing against it too much, and the sides weren't looking correct up against the edge of this. So then I trimmed it down, and I trimmed too much off. But it was just this tiniest skosh. And it's like, why am I going to recut this again and potentially have it not be good?
Mhm.
So all I did is wrapped another piece of material around it.
Mm,
So
good idea.
sometimes having, when it's just needs a little bit more fullness, try wrapping another piece of material around it to get that fill in, because then you've wasted the piece of material that you already did, the foam that you already did, when if you just tried that one more step, you would have had it.
Okay.
Okay. You can use this program for large circles, small circles. It has all different kinds of shapes. You'd have to be careful with, the stars and the hearts, that if you wanted to try to make this into using that. I still just cut all of the edges, wrap it to get my shaped pieces.
Okay.
But for things like this, I mean, it is just a wonderful tool to be able to make yourself an entire set. Um, because, I mean, I have years and years worth of DVDs. They're a great template for when you have the bigger ornaments. But I have I have so many. It's ridiculous. And I mean, and of course they're the quickest piece of paper. I have notes on them from doctor's appointments when I'm trying to schedule stuff and I can't find them. Um, but ovals are the toughest. They are, because if you don't have a nice, there are ways to do it without it. And it requires measuring out a rectangle. I'm trying to see if yep, here's one. So I measured out a rectangle, and I said, okay, I think I need it to be this by that, okay. And then you fold it in half,
Mhm.
and you fold it in half again, and you cut an arch in, and hopefully it might fit. In fact, I think I did end up using this for the piece that I was doing. I think it was like a reindeer stand-up that I had to do 3 months ago, because I was at home and I didn't have this program on my computer, and I didn't realize there was an open source that I could have downloaded for free. Huh. Well, we all have those moments. Um, but I made my star template for those, the practice canvases that I was selling for people that might want to have an inexpensive. I mean, you can do anything on this. So, what's some questions that you have, as far as if there's any, like, measuring questions, or
So my thing is like I tried to do a stand up once, and when I did it, it was tilting.
okay. So, if you have a tilting stand up, was it tilting to the back or to the front?
To the front.
Okay.
Find where it is.
So, when you are doing something, and I talk about this with this bag. So, when you do a piece like this, I always put my piece together like this, okay?
Okay.
I fold the fabric so that, and I finger press it so that it's straight across, and I can see that it's straight across
On both fabrics.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
you've already done this on your needle point at this point.
Right.
You've sewn the edges and everything. Sorry, you can't see what I'm kind of showing you. But once you have your edges sewn and you bring it together, it's all nice and flat and you're getting ready to do this, fold your bottom fabric under so that you know where the appropriate amount of bottom line should be, because what you did is you let, when you put your base on, the fabric was a little bit longer
Okay.
than this, so then when you put your plate to it, your base, it was like that inside. It was
Okay.
cockeyed, and so it made the front lurch forward. So if
Okay.
you'd just taken that, I always try to put my pins in straight to make sure that I've got, when I put the base on, so when I set it upright, I can see whether it's lurching forward or backward. Because then, even with this, if I don't have this sitting nice and squarely in here, it's going to lurch one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
When you sit it upright. So, but because you finger press this down, you're going to know, hey, I have to have this pinned into my edge, or else, because if you had just taken that out, like your pins, when it wasn't sitting right, and just folded that material in a little bit further,
Okay.
then checked it again, pinned it, check it again. If it needs to go in a little bit further, then you roll it in a little bit further. It's a perpetual problem when you're doing soft stand-ups.
Okay.
And so don't think you're the only one. It happens a lot because certain fabrics don't finger press in. So when you're getting that bottom line, when you're putting this bottom line in, you literally, as you're, say you're stuffing it, and so you did the finger press, then you stuff it so that you know how much to measure for your bottom. All of a sudden, you're looking at it going, I don't see that finger pressed edge. It's like, oh shoot, now I can't tell where that edge was. And you don't want to pin it because a lot of fabrics aren't forgiving to pin holes. So, and you can't use those little clippy things if you're using velveteen. I'm here. You can't use, so if you try to use like little clippy things or
Right.
pins, they're going to mar your fabric.
Okay.
So you can't use those things to help you show it. One thing I see, even that I can't even say to try, because you'd have to mark it beforehand.
What
So
if you basted it down? Would that not be good? We're still marking the fabric.
yeah, you're gonna get a weird edge. So all you can do is, when you're doing the soft stand-ups, is put that front in first, right? And then you have to make sure that if you pin, like I said, pin it all the way around where you think it is supposed to be, and make sure that your pins are flat enough so that you can turn it over and sit it down flat on its bottom and check that it's not listing forward or backward. Because the front edge is fine.
Yeah.
It's that back side where it's going to either have to be rolled in or even rolled out. If you roll it too far in, it can have the same effect of bad,
Mhm.
You know, it's just as bad to have it listing backwards and looking up at the ceiling. So, and when you're doing something that is a soft-sided stand-up, you are going to stuff it and stuff it almost to the top
Yeah.
before you measure for your bottom. Okay?
Okay.
Because if you kind of do it where it's 3/4, I mean, I get it right to the top, just kind of mash it down with my quilting ruler, and you can just lay it right over the top and sort of see. So you'll see a lot of people that will take the bag. Somebody actually, who was it, had a tote bag in this video, and they literally just traced the interior, and it was kind of pointy on the sides. But if you use a program like this, the Open Office or whatever it's called, then you can make your ovals more rounded so that it gives it a bigger base. You don't want a tippy, soft-sided stand-up. You know, you just, if they're too skinny, it's just boop, you know, and it's like, great, now I have to. And even the like the nativities that are like 1 inch wide, you know, they're this wide, and you need to make them, you don't need to make them all the same side, but you need them to have some depth, because otherwise, if you can't make a 1 inch insert to go in, up in, and be able to use like one of the bolts, which, hold on, I know I have one in here. Because this is what I use for a weight in the 1 inch bases, because it's exactly an
I've
inch.
seen that on your free video.
Right. So this is exactly 1 inch. So you can wrap this in batting and put it up in and then fill in with a little bit, and it'll fit on that 1 inch base. But if you don't have, I like to put it, they do have 3/4 inch ones, so I would do a 3/4 inch so you have a little room between these points. But if you make that skinny base like this or like this, depending on how much you can actually fit in there, if you just made it a little bit rounder at the bottom versus a long oval, I mean, if I wanted to, I could have expanded it out to have a really chunky bottom. But I also know that the majority of the bags that are out there have a narrower base for a purse than doing one that's almost a perfect circle.
Right.
But you
Well,
could,
it just looks more finished if everything's even.
right. But I mean, if you so wanted to, you could finish this as a circle base so that when your interior would allow you to fit more things, you know, in it.
Right.
If you wanted to. So this is the benefits of being able to use a program like this. You don't have to have a circuit machine to cut them out for you to achieve this kind of template. You just have to have the right program to be able to come back to it and to be able to manipulate it the way you need it.
So I have a different kind of along the same lines then. So when I used to work in the store, we'd have customers who bring in like odd shapes, like stars or whatever, ornaments, but they would overstitch them because they didn't want to figure out the complication on the end. But they wanted it in the star shape. So could you use this and like
Okay,
make the star and force it into the shape?
So wait. So they did what?
If it was, say, a star, and then if they're doing a pattern stitch, when it comes near the end, they didn't want to figure how to compensate the stitch, so they would do the full stitch, would take it off the star shape.
Oh.
And they'd rely on the finisher, well, I wanted a star. And I'm like, well, you didn't stitch anywhere near a star, but, so could you, then use templates like this to try to get it back into the perfect star and just have a lot of stitching on the back? And,
Yeah. That's exactly what I would do. But the way I would do it, you definitely have to make sure that the finisher knows
Yeah.
that it's supposed to be a star shape and that they don't want it rounded. And your finisher has to not be afraid to cut it, because hold on, I gotta pull up so I can change screens. Order. So if you come over to the right hand side and you look at shapes and you go to basic shapes, and you click the little drop down arrow. Stars are at the end. I lied. So drop down on the stars. It gives you a multitude of different stars to choose from. You could take just the generic 5-point, and you can measure the star that they have.
Right.
And then, looking at the bottom, you can see how, big it is. You're going to want, if you need to insert it inside, just don't forget, if it's for a cookie shape, you have to do an 1/8 of an inch loss all the way smaller, all the way around. So you got to, mathematically be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, because sometimes also the star shapes that you get, the designer, one of the points is smaller than the other. That actually just happened to me recently, where it was so much shorter. It was ridiculous compared to the other ones. And I'm looking at it, and it had such a design to it that you couldn't just turn it under and say, too bad for you, the stitching's gone. Because what would happen is you would lose a major part of the design. So sometimes doing something that's very symmetrical doesn't always work on, those types of things. You have to bring in, one side a little bit, and that's why I flip it over. You can tell if it needs to be a star. The finisher should have done a star,
Yeah.
If somebody overstitched an area and the rest of it looks like a star, they should have went, okay, I need to make this pointy. Because I would have done that, and I would have just buried some of the stitches to make it a star. But you do have to take into account that if one side is much, much longer, but the design, you still have to follow the way the design is and use your judgment a little bit. Okay. Don't just bury a lot of, there are some Texas ornaments and different things like that they have like scenes in them, if that makes sense. It's got the Texas Longhorn, and I've seen a couple of them that have a few things, and it's like, you can't just turn a whole lot of it under. But if it's a fancy stitch, heck yeah, as long as it's not.
And they've mainly done it, if they haven't done it on like a true design element, it's more on just the background stitching, the fill stitching.
Yeah.
I'm like going, what's the shape supposed to be? Well, it's an oval, but I didn't want to compensate the stitches. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so and that's why I say, um, also with round ornaments, this is why I make templates in like 1/8 inch loss increments all the way down to teeny tiny, because when a lot of people stitch a round ornament, one side, the upper right and the bottom left, if they're doing a continental or a basket weave, are typically going to be a little longer. So even though it started out, and it's just because of the angle of the stitches, even though it started out as a circle, it might look a little oval. So you have to have that perfect round template to be able to use. So the same with an oval. And sometimes it's just because now you also need that oval template, because when you're blocking it, maybe it's very skewed just because of blocking. So it's like, oi, great. Where's this? Even though you can usually see that the stitches are straight, sometimes you can't because it's a metallic and it just doesn't want to pull straight. So coming in and measuring your width and your height of the design is going to be your best bet. And I have done that and then laid it on top of it while it's on the blocking board and went, there's some serious overstitching on this, and a lot of that is going to have to be buried. And if there is a large amount of it, you'll literally have to dart up into the stitching, because if you have a 1/2 inch of going around that's stitched, it's say it's just white, because I had one that was the skiing one and it had like the name of the city, the skiing city, and the bottom of it was like had a big lobe kind of jutting out of it. And I tried to accommodate it by, um, because it was puffed. I was like, okay, I'll make it even puffier and we'll use up some of that space the best we can. I still had to dart up into the stitching to get it to wrap around and not have dents at the edge, because it wouldn't wrap because of the heaviness of the stitches.
Kelly, when you dart into stitching, do you do anything to protect it from running?
Nope. Because all the stitching around it is holding it in. It's really amazing. I know it sounds terrifying, but it really doesn't. The needlepoint canvas stops it from unfurling, and the other ones around it. It doesn't mean I'm darting in close, really close to the edge. I'm not. I'm staying 2 stitches out, because that'll just wrap around and it'll still, those darts will fold behind. That side's going to be a thicker edge though than the rest of it. If the rest of it doesn't have extra stitches pulled around, that side's going to kind of be a little lumpy looking. And you're going to have to do a little creativeness with your cording. But you also, okay, so here's another thing. When you have one of those where it has that extra little lumpiness to that one side, don't use a template on the back. I still take the ornament that I'm doing and trace around it. Oh, you lost me? Okay. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me yet. Ugh.
What to do when you have extra turnover.
Oh my gosh. It won't unmute. Ugh. Finally. It would not unmute. It's like unmute. So when I have a piece that's like this, and it has a bulge, you know, kind of has a thickness to this side, you're still going to take and trace around your ornament. Don't try to use a template on the back side, because then you'll have this little kind of bulgy spot on the front and the back side won't, and your cording won't fit together well. It'll still look like a circle, it will, but that thickness of your seam from the thickness of the gutter is going to need to be mirrored on the back. Otherwise, it's really they're gonna look at it and go, why didn't you fix that bulge? Well, the bulge is you.
You made it.
Yeah,
I
you
have
did this.
one I just did last night that she did. It was an Abigail Cecile with snow, and she did it with yarn, but really thick yarn at the
Ooh.
bottom of it in long stitches.
Oh,
And I'm like, wow. So not only was the front thick, which is, you know, that's okay, you know, it's a little puffy, but the back was so thick from the yarn
yes.
that I had to do what you did in the coaster and put some pieces
Yes.
inside the
Yep, you
inside
have
the
to, yeah. You have to put a spacer in to bridge the gap. Yeah,
So it's like you're shimming your ornaments.
absolutely.
Kelly, I'm sorry. I'm watching you on one computer and listening to you on another. Something's wrong with the connection, so I think it's my computer. But anyway, I am.
Oh, that's so funny, because I'm sitting there going, wow, there's two Robins?
Yeah, right. Yes, and one computer just died, so I just, you know, so I'm just listening, and I'll watch the video later.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're all having fun with technology, right? I gotta tell you, I made this huge sticky note, and Renee made me laugh because she actually um, said to me before I started, "Are you recording?" Because of last night, I'm just like,
Oh no, last night you didn't record?
halfway through.
Oh jeez.
So somebody else is sending me an angel, so I
It's
can.
me.
Oh, Renee. Yeah, that's right. So Renee is sending me another angel, so that, yeah. But the connection was so bad. It was so jumpy because of my internet that it wouldn't have been a great one anyway. But sometimes I debate on just making a video like I used to make them without people. But you guys ask questions that are important, that need addressing, that I don't necessarily think of. So that's why, you know, today Renee was like, "Are you sure you want to videotape this?" Yes, because I need you guys asking me questions that somebody else is going to ask. You know, this, to me, this is a huge tool. I hate not having something like this. Trying to make this stupid thing, folding it, and I've done it many times. It just is never as nice, because I can see when I'm putting it on, I'm like, it just would be so much smoother and it'd have such a nice arch to it, where it just doesn't. And then there are some that, you know, you go to do them and they're just so out of whack that you wonder, who designed this? You know, but then you look at it and you can see that whomever designed it as an oval, the oval was just slightly turned when they designed it. When they put it down on the canvas, they to make their master, or when they personally painted it, if they're doing their own painting, the oval was just a little askew. And so then the rows at the top, when you scan down it and you try to match them at the bottom, they aren't even close. And so it's really difficult to try to make that look straight, because the stitches are going to be just a little off if you try to make the top and the bottom straight. So in those cases, that's when you, and that actually happens as a finisher, you'll put the oval that you just made in there inside, and you might have it shifted a little, and then you wrap your piece, you wrap your waste canvas around it, and then you turn it around, and that oval is just a little off on the interior, and it can, then you got to peel it all off and do it again. So in that respect, here's another thing you can do if you don't want to deal with that. You go into this line tool right here, and you bring it here, and it doesn't matter right now if you are making it in the right spot. Just make a straight line. Again, clicking the shift makes it stay straight and you don't have an angle. And actually, you can even bring it beyond it, so you can see the next part. Okay? Now highlight your oval. Either move your oval or move your line, whichever is smart enough to put it where you want it to be. That's pretty close to centered. I'm going to zoom in. Up in the upper top line, there's a little magnifying glass. We're going to zoom in. See if we can get that over just that tiniest bit. Are you going to show me, or are you going to be a pain? So this is trying to click to the guides, the ruler marks. Come on. It's going to make me nuts. See, it's clicking to the ruler marks, so it's not letting me come over just a tiny bit. Hold on. Tools at the top. Modify. See if this, okay, so see, this is your ruler on the left side or on the right side, all right? You click inside the ruler and you can drag over a guide that shows you basically what you want. Bring it over. Should doesn't want to. Shapes rotate. There should be rulers. Snap to rulers. Styles and formatting. Let's try position and size again. Alright. That is annoying. Group ungroup, shape split, tools, gallery spelling, insert. There we go. View. Guides. Display grids. Snap to grids. I don't want you to snap to the grid. So click on that and it should unsnap it, hopefully. Grid. Nope. I got rid of something I didn't want to get rid of. Oh, it is doing it. Okay. So in view, we go to grid, and I clicked on snap to grid, and it got rid of it. Interesting. Okay. So now that line goes through the center, and when you print it, that way you can actually come in on your canvas. Oh, I'm trying to show you on a screen that is not up. Hold on. So for the one I'm about to show you, you would put the line like this. You'd put the line across this way, so you could line it up half and half on each side. But on the needlepoint canvas, say this was an oval, I would mark the top and the bottom. So when I lay my oval on the interior, there's a line that I can put. And all you have to do is draw around your template and then draw down in the middle, and you'll be able to have a slight impression. So you'll be able to see where that center line is. So when you put it inside that oval, you can make it go vertically correctly. I battled with one recently that sometimes I think I should just be considered an alcoholic, because I should drink for all of the times that I battle with these things. I should have a real problem, because I could make myself really crazy trying to make sure that these things are perfectly straight. Because I went round and round with an oval, God, it wasn't even 2 months ago. Oh, I'm not there.
Like,
His phone board and phone board, but
Hello.
oh, you're back.
Okay, you gotta call me because I didn't even see the stupid thing come
Oh, I'm
up.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's
I'm
me.
trying not to interfere with the recording.
No, you're fine.
We were having a lovely conversation.
That's all right. I was just talking about how to. Okay, what was the last thing you saw? Did you see it where I made the
Oh.
center line?
Yes, you were trying to adjust the oval to make it bulge or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I've lost my train of thought.
Cal,
Yeah.
you're gone again.
Gosh. Am I here now?
Now you're
You're
here.
frozen. Oh.
I don't know if you're frozen because I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I can tell you.
You're moving again.
I can tell you why. Well, now it's saying it's unstable. So, I think trying to jump between screens is making me freeze.
Or there's so many people on the case that they're using up all the bandwidth.
That too. I think it's both. I think it's both. By me trying to make this screen come up, this camera come up, because I'm now on a different window, Zoom is like, no, you're doing something else. Yeah, thank you, Zoom. So, basically what I did is you can put a line that goes straight down your template so that when you put the oval inside, you can see where it's vertical and you can match the vertical, because I made myself nuts trying.
Kelly, we're hitting every third word.
Great. Give me 5. Okay. Every third word. Wonderful. I don't know what
You're
else.
incredibly profound, but it's everything.
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is you want to try to get that center line so that you know it's straight up and down in your oval. Because I made myself nuts trying to make this oval straight, and it just kept getting cockeyed in there, and I'd fold it all around and it just wouldn't be straight, and it made me absolutely insane. So,
But Kelly, are you talking when you're doing this template? Are you talking about using it to help focus the needle point so that you're using a more uh, a shape that's actually proper as opposed to
correct.
semi-blocked? Okay.
Correct. What I'm saying is that, so when I went to put, so here I have this oval canvas that's blocked, and the designer has made it so that the top and the bottom are not on the same stitches.
Right.
Okay, and trying to make that look correct, and I'm trying to do it the way they want to do it, and it has monogramming on the back, so I'm following where the stitches are vertically to put the monogram on the back of the piece, like you've seen me use the pin trick.
Yeah.
And then I turned it around to the front, and the front was all askew because how it was designed wasn't straight. So for the template that you use to make your oval and put on the interior, if you mark where the vertical line is when you put it in so that you can follow the stitch line, not the design line, so that you can fold it around, because it will look off. It'll look off kilter because they didn't do their oval, they didn't paint it on correctly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I said come back in, lay a line over the top of it so that you can have that to follow. It's not for everything, but there are certain ovals where they just aren't going to look like you want them to look because they're askew. And most people don't, they just put the template down when they're designing, and they don't see that they might have it a little cockeyed on there. So
Yeah, because even two threads is a lot.
yeah, it is. It's a lot. And you
Mm.
don't notice it until you go to finish it. So, it's a
Or
problem.
people who try to make their it's Renee, I think you were talking about this before. People who try to make their oval with their stitching, and their stitching changes the shape of the oval. a
Yeah.
bit.
The round, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the round, yeah. It just,
I mean, I'm working on an egg right now,
ugh.
and so yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That's what it was. It was an egg that I was doing. That's exactly what it was.
Oh, really?
But it was more of an oval that I had to kind of make into an eggish shape.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh. It's like if I have to rip this off one more time because the glue starts to build up
Yeah.
and you're trying to shift it and you're trying to get it correct in there. And it's like, and then I realized, oh my gosh, it's the fact that
It's not you.
it's
right?
not
you.
me, it's the way it's stitched. And it's just,
Right.
once you get that aha moment, it's like,
Mm.
oh, yes, this is why the oval isn't working. And this is why having this program to use and to make those, because even if you use a circuit to make the perfect cut for it, you still have to get it straight in there. So, and once, fine, can you make it draw a little line down it too? Because if you can, you should, because that can help you save your sanity. I'm serious, I should be a drinker. Sometimes it's just like every night after going home, battling certain things, hello, Limoges boxes. It's like,
Oh God. Oh God.
Did you say that you did the angel last night?
I did. Do you want to see it?
I thought it was tonight. I mean tomorrow night.
No, it was last night.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right.
After all the hard they gave you about this thing and I missed it.
Yep. And I only got half of it videoed. Huh. Made me feel
Now I
even.
feel better.
Yeah, it made me feel even crappier. So when Renee sends the piece to me, then I can schedule when it will be, and then we'll have a video. But
Oh.
I mean, it was a good class, aside from the beginning when it was really stupid, like a few minutes ago, just all the
Yeah.
intermittent crap.
The student arrived there Thursday, provided UPS lives up to its delivery.
Yeah. Well, my friends, I have to let you go because I have another gig coming up. And
Thank you.
are any of you guys
Thanks,
going to be
Tom.
in the topper?
Say again?
Any of you coming to the topper class
No.
tonight?
No. Isn't there one tomorrow?
Yep. It's the weighted stand up.
I'm in tomorrow.
I'm in tomorrow too.
Did I just hear you're going to fireworks?
I didn't. Renee, did you say
No,
that?
I didn't.
Oh, I thought I heard somebody say, no, I'm going to fireworks. I was going to say, what?
No.
I'd rather go to fireworks too.
No, I was supposed to go to brunch tomorrow, and that's why I thought I had these. Never mind.
Thanks, Kelly.
You're
Thanks a lot.
welcome. Take care, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.